Session 44. Good evening, playmates. I am pleased that you are so pleased with our last session. I was in fact going to speak about dream locations, in that you definitely experience these locations in your dreams, which take up no room in your space. On one level, they could be said not to exist, and yet they do exist. While in your dream, you are able to see and touch and move about in these locations. It is only when you awake that they escape you. This should be considered along with our material on the expanding universe, since dream locations represent, certainly, a reality, even a framework that has no existence in your space, and measured purely along the lines used to measure your space. You would receive no hint at all of their existence or reality. Measured purely in terms of your camouflage conceptions, many things which you know to exist would seem not to exist. You cannot deny your own psychological reality, but sometimes it seems as if you would if you could. You cannot feel outwardly, or see or measure an emotion, and an emotion takes up no space. Emotions still exist. Feelings intensify. In value, they can be said to expand. Yet, this more real intensity or value expansion of a feeling takes up no more additional space than it did at its conception. The color red is more vivid than the color black, using black here as color. However, red takes up no more space than black. In other words, expansion occurring in terms of value quality or gradations of intensity has nothing to do with expansion in space. And expansion of value and intensity is the only real form of expansion. I have said that the mind cannot be detected by your instrument at present. The mind does not take up space, and yet the mind is the value that gives power to the brain. The mind expands continually, both in individual terms and in terms of the species as a whole, and yet the mind takes up neither more nor less space, whether it be the mind of a flea or a man. The mind simply does not exist in spatial terms. You have no way of measuring the mind's expansion, any more than you can measure the expansion of the universe as long as you are thinking in terms of expansion in space. To deny the reality of what does not exist in space would be to deny much of mankind's own heritage and abilities. Again, the dream world exists in a very personal, vivid, and valid manner, but the dream world does not take up so many inches, or feet, or yards, or acres. Now, we get into something else. If the dream world exists, and it does, and if it does not exist in space, then in what, or where, does it have its existence? And what paths, if any, will lead us to it? Since I have also said that basically the universe has no more to do with space in your terms than does the dream world, you may deduce a similarity between the medium in which both the basic universe and the dream world may be found. You must understand here that your idea of space is something quite different from the reality of our fifth-dimensional space. I want to make this plain again before we continue. Your idea of space is some completely erroneous conception of an emptiness to be filled. Things, planets, stars, nebulae come into being in this universe of yours. They are born continually according to your latest theories, and this universe expands, pushed, so to speak, so that its size budge. The outer galaxies literally bursting out into nowhere. True fifth-dimensional space, as I have said often, is to the contrary vital energy, itself alive, possessing endless abilities of transformation, forming all existence, forming even the camouflage universe with which you are familiar, and which you attempt to probe so effectively. This fifth-dimensional space, this basic universe of reality of which I speak, expands constantly in terms of intensity and quality and value, in a way that has nothing to do with your idea of space. The basic inner universe beneath all camouflage does not have an existence in space at all, as you envision it. Space as you envision it, that is as an emptiness to be filled, is a camouflage. I suggest that you take your first break. Dreams, the dream world, these do not exist to any real degree in time as you know time. Weeks may be experienced in a dream, and the dream may take but a split second of your clock time. The inner thoughts of the mind exist but briefly in time, and even this small tinge of time that touches both dreams and ideas is not basic to either the dream or the idea. This tinge of time is an attribute of the physical camouflage form only, and even then, the relationship between time and ideas, and time and dreams, is a nebulous one. As I have mentioned, though you experience 2 days in a dream, you are while in that dream free from the time involved, in that you do not age 2 days, although you have psychologically experienced that apparent time. The dream world and the mind are touched by time, and exist in it only in so far as these realities dip into the camouflage universe. Basically, both the dream world and the ideas of the inner mind do not have their existence in time, although they may be visible from the perspective of time, viewed from the physical form. The reality of the inner universe also does not exist basically in time, as you conceive it. Although in some instances, parts of it may be glimpsed from the camouflage time perspective, only, however, a very small portion. If the dream world and the mind and the inner universe do exist, and if they do not exist in space, and if they do not exist basically in time, though they may be glimpsed through time, then your question will be, in what medium or in what manner do they exist? And without time, how can they be said to exist in duration? You already have many clues that I have given you. The answer itself should not seem unbelievable. You know for a fact that dreams exist. You know that the mind exists. You have personal, intimate, direct knowledge of this. I am telling you that the basic universe exists behind all camouflage universes in the same manner, and taking up no space. That the mind exists behind the brain. The brain is a camouflage pattern. It takes up space. It exists in time. The mind takes up no space. It does not have its basic existence in time. The reality of the inner universe does not take up space, nor does it have its basic existence in time. Your camouflage universe, on the other hand, takes up space and has an existence in time. But it is not the real and basic universe, any more than the brain is the mind. Now, nevertheless, the dream world, the mind, and the reality universe do exist. They exist in a climate that we will call the value climate of psychological reality. This is the median. This takes the place of what you call space. This value climate of psychological reality is a quality which makes all existences and consciousness possible. It is one of the most powerful principles behind or within the vitality that itself composes from itself all other phenomena. I suggest that you take your break. One of the main attributes of this value climate is spontaneity. That shows itself in the existence of the only sort of time that has any real meaning, that of the spacious present. The spacious present does not contradict the existence of durability, but durability does not imply the existence of a future as you conceive it. Now, this may appear contradictory, but later, I hope that you will understand this more clearly. The spacious present, while existing spontaneously, while happening simultaneously, still contains within it qualities of duration. An idea is not itself aware of past, present, and future, for example, and yet having no experience with present, past, and future, it still endures. Nor does the duration involved in the spacious present in any way involve a suspension in terms of, for example, growth forbidden to achieve maturity. Growth in your camouflage universe often involves the taking up of more space. Actually, in our inner universe of reality, growth exists in terms of the value or quality expansion of which I have spoken, and does not, I repeat, does not imply any sort of space expansion. Nor does it imply, as growth does in your camouflage universe, a sort of projection into time. I realize that this material is difficult, and I am giving it to you in as simple terms as possible. If growth is one of the most necessary laws of your camouflage universe, value fulfillment corresponds to it in the inner reality universe. Now, the so-called laws of your camouflage universe do not apply to the inner universe. They do not even apply to other camouflage planes. However, the laws of the inner universe apply to all camouflage universes, and all consciousness on any plane must follow the basic laws of the inner universe. Some of these basic laws have counterparts now, and accepted on various camouflage planes. There are various manifestations of these laws and various names given to them. These basic laws are followed on many levels in your own universe. We will go into these laws in time. So far, I have given you but one, which is value fulfillment. In your physical universe, this rule is followed as physical growth. the entity follows this rule through the cycle of reincarnations. The species of mankind and all other species in your universe on your particular horizontal plane follow this rule under the auspices of evolution. On other planes, this law is carried through in other manners, but it is never ignored. I suggest because of the importance of the material that you take a break. The second law of the inner universe is energy transformation. This occurs constantly. Energy transformation and value fulfillment, all extinct within the spacious present, add up to a durability that is at the same time spontaneous. Energy transformation and value fulfillment add up to a durability that is simultaneous. You may see what we are getting into here. Our third law is spontaneity, and despite all appearances of beginning and end, despite all appearances of death and decay, all consciousness exists in the spacious present, in a spontaneous manner, in simultaneous harmony, and yet, within the spacious present, there is also durability. Durability is our fourth law. Durability within the framework of the spacious present would not exist were it not for the laws of value fulfillment and energy transformation. These make duration within the spacious present not only possible, but necessary. Now, on your particular camouflage universe, you are learning energy transformation. And in your case, you are learning to transform inner energy by forming it into physical constructions that the plane enables you to manipulate by the formation of particular outer senses for this purpose. You are severely limited as yet in the use of your abilities. When the two laws of value fulfillment and energy transformation are mastered, then duration is a natural consequence. What you consider death has no more basic reality than has your idea of time and space. Death really represents a blind spot in your present ability to perceive energy transformation and even value fulfillment. Death merely represents the termination of your own perception. That is, the termination of your understanding. Your ability here amounts to a complete wielding of comprehension. Your senses are not equipped to perceive the transformation of energy from one form to another. Certainly, the birth of a child is really basically just as incomprehensible. But this transformation is projected into, rather than out of, your sphere of understanding. What you call death is merely the transformation of your own energy onto a sphere that cannot be perceived by the outer senses. I hope that I have made this material plain enough for your plan. Actually, duration itself is dependent upon such transformation. We have managed together to do extremely well with the evening session, and I dare say that I came through in excellent fashion. I want to make one note here. That again, experience in the use of psychological time will bring you close to an understanding of the value climate of psychological reality, for obvious reasons. Psychological time indeed is a part of this climate, as it appears in fairly uncamouflaged form in your own universe. You can get the feel of it. I suggest your break. I am not giving you these laws necessarily in the order of their importance. merely in the order which is easiest for me to deliver to you. Creation is obviously one of the basic laws, which we will call the fifth law. In your physical universe, this law is followed through ideal constructions, which become ideal approximations of inner reality that are, nevertheless, distorted to a large degree, and make up the various camouflage patterns with which you are familiar. We will go into these laws and outline others in future sessions. You will see also how the inner senses are equipped to perceive basic inner realities of the inner universe, in much the same manner that your outer senses are equipped to manipulate within your camouflage universe. This material is actually not nearly as difficult to understand as it may seem. Intuitively, you should pick up much of it. The intuitions are not bound by the so-called laws of logic and the cause and effect. They do not take time as you know it into consideration. Therefore, they are not bound by continuity or limited to communication of words or even thoughts, thrown out one after another. The intuitions are able to accept conceptual reality to some degree. They can feel the content and the validity of a concept, where the brain itself may fall short. I am tempted to go into more laws this evening. However, it is best that I withhold them until you grow more familiar with this evening's material. Remember, however, our universe that fulfills itself, yet takes up no space, and our imaginary painting in which distance appears ever further in the background, while never touching the back of the painting, and this may give you some intuitive understanding of our spacious present that has duration, and yet takes up no space. Contradictions, or rather apparent contradictions in terms, will arise only out of a false conception on your part, mostly as a result of erroneous cause and effect system. Obviously, cause and effect has only limited application even on your own plane and in your own camouflage universe. If cause and effect were an absolute law, then continuity would also have to be an absolute law, and all or any evidences of clairvoyance or viewing the future would be absolutely impossible, even in your universe, and this simply is not so. It is only because there is basically no cause and effect, but merely apparent cause and effect, and no past, present, and future, that clairvoyance is possible in your universe. And while awareness of clairvoyance is fairly rare, it does exist, and though watered down in most instances, is a natural method of warning individuals of happenings with which their own outer senses would not be familiar. It is a natural method of protecting the individual by giving him an inner knowledge of events. Without constant clairvoyance on the part of every man and woman, existence on your plane would involve such inner psychological insecurity that it would be completely unbearable. Individuals are always warned of disasters, so that the organism can prepare itself ahead of time. The day of death is known. Consciously, such knowledge is not given to the ego for obvious reasons, but every organism, through its inner senses, is equipped with subconscious knowledge of personal disasters, death, and so forth. The personality itself deciding beforehand what it considers disastrous, and the members of the species as a whole know in advance of their worth. As telepathy operates constantly at a subconscious level, as a basis for all language and communication, so clairvoyance operates continually so that the physical organism can prepare itself to face its challenges. The inner senses also convey the knowledge that death is merely an energy transformation, and your almost numberless religions merely represent idea symbols that attempted to make this knowledge plain to the ego. That they deal with distortions and camouflage material is not to be wondered at. They have managed in some way to make this inner knowledge a part of the ego understanding of the species. This is quite enough for one session. My pigeons. Rob asked, "Can I ask a question?" They said, "You may." Rob asked, "Can you tell us anything about Miss Callahan tonight?" They said, "Only that day, or rather this late evening. Between this evening, actually and 2 a.m. your time, she will undergo a severe crisis, and then rapid deterioration of brain tissue will set in. She is over, or will be over, the watch hump by them, and even the ego will be forced to acquiesce. The last struggles of the ego will take place in these hours. It will finally understand that it is not to be dumped aside, but taken along as itself, independent as always, to stand beside other independent egos that all represent facets of the entity. No powers are taken away from the ego. It has what abilities it has achieved, plus the ability to draw upon other energy which it could not draw upon. That is all I will say now along those lines. The session has been an excellent one. Even old daunting Thomas Ruber is impressed enough with the material to admit that his precious subconscious simply could not be the source of it all. I bid you a most fond good evening, and as usual look forward to our next meeting. I would not be surprised if your friend Philip attended. Tata tootsies. Rob said, "Good night, Seth. See you Monday."